Welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy. Today we're going to be talking about the mysteries of transmutation. As we were talking about in the live podcast with Santos and Daniel on episode 25, we want to go deeper into the safest, most beneficial ways to transmuting the sexual energy. Essentially, according to Samael Weor's mentor, Crum Heller, was an ancient Gnostic doctor, about, I'd say, late 1800s. And he was the one who said that if the sage were to dedicate himself to sexual retention as well as mantra vocalization, that this would be sufficient enough to awaken some of the latent, dormant abilities that we have within ourselves. A lot of people find it hard to transmute the sexual energy into more subtle currents within the human body. And that's because it's a very subtle process. The process has to be very subtle. Just like that laboratory alchemist, when they apply fire to the material to break it down to its most pure aspect, the fire is subtle. So we're applying subtle fires. That subtle fire is heated up through retaining the energy that accumulates in the lower chakras. Now, when we actually decide to come into union and practice what they would call the Maithuna, which would essentially mean when the king and queen, or the man and woman, come together, unite, the main key is to withdraw before reaching the spasm. So it's safe to say that, to even not get to the point where you're going to end up expelling that energy, and instead use mantra vocalizations to let the energy become transmuted, transformed up into the brain. So it's a very patient process, and essentially you can do it vocally out loud or within. And there's many mantras that have been given. I recommend you guys read the books by Samael Weor and use them practically. Even he said not to follow him. He's just a messenger. So the point is to utilize the beautiful teachings that he brought to us, that are for everyone. And anyone who wants to do due diligence can find this information. But I'm here to help you guys navigate in a safe, conductive way to help bring this knowledge to you all who are seeking this. And what we're going to talk about is that while you're in union with your partner and you feel like you're about to get to that point, I want you to slow down, stop, take a deep breath in. Imagine the light ascending from the bottom of the spine into the top of the brain. And vocalize the mantra. E. E-A-O. E-A-O is the mantra. E vibrates the pineal gland. A vibrates the heart and the astral body. And O transmutes the fluids of the male or female into its higher octave. We combine this with the subtle breathing technique of just inhalation, and then exhale with the vowel sound, with the focus here, here, and here. You can also do the mantra Fa, Ra, Om, Fa, Ra, Om. And this can be internally vocalized or externally, whatever you're comfortable with. The main point is that the sound of the mantras are subtle enough. Sound is a subtle vibration, it's about, I would say, more subtle than air. You have earth, water, air, fire, sound being subtle. That sound can merge and attract the sexual atoms up into the soul, the astral body, and nourish it, and then start directing to the brain, because where attention goes, energy flows. So when we use these mantras, we are vocalizing them, and we are moving the energy appropriately. And remember, if you are doing the internal, trying to experience that spasm internally, or getting to that point and having to clench your muscles and force yourself, then you're going too far. Try to let the pressure build up naturally. Be like a bee with pollen, pollinate in a very subtle way. And this fire will raise up each vertebrae of the spine until it reaches the brain. These mantra vocalizations, mixed with the simple breathing exercise of inhalation and exhale while vocalizing the mantra, will help facilitate this process. You could read Perfect Matrimony by Samuel Weor or the Yellow Book. But I'm here to help you guys as well to understand that there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And if you're adding too much fire to the flame, you're going to end up losing that fire, losing that oil. So essentially, you should only, in the beginning, only practice once every 24 hours. You should have, before you practice alchemy, you should have a good amount of time where you're actually staying celibate, which means like a small amount of time, maybe a month or a couple of weeks, where you're not engaging in that, so that you have enough fire, so that when you do, you actually have something to work with. And if you just do it very subtly and patiently with the mantra vocalizations, you'll feel the energy that would once happen down here in spasm will go up into the heart and the brain. You might even wake up with feelings of bliss, of that feelings up here. It's been allowed to rise and vaporize, like we talked about in the distillation process of Scorpio. And we do know how important it is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. E-A-O, E-A-O, or Ram 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 Ram. These sound vibrations help purify the animal instincts and allow that energy to be harnessed. Remember, on a day-to-day basis, our body's an alchemical transmutation chamber. So essentially, by keeping the tongue at the roof of the mouth, behind the teeth, the eyes ever so glancing at the horizon, and a small pull up on that muscle, nothing intense. Breathe and feel the light go up and around, just like the shepherd's crook. We taught about the shepherd's crook in the previous lesson. E it's transmuted, and we can transmute it daily. Or Sagittarius rules the hips, and the sexual energy and the testosterone is in the hips. And by utilizing walking, conscious walking, going on a hike, going on a run, using your legs for laborious works, will help transmute the energy. You can also put your feet on a wall and like you were when you're a kid, get your feet up on a wall like that and just lay down properly so that your legs are inclined upward. Your body 90-degree angle to the wall. So your butt would be here, and then your head, your legs would be up here. And then you'd be laying down, have your body up for at least a minute, and then add another minute, 2 minutes, next day, 3 minutes, next day, 4 minutes, next day, 5. You can transmute the blood of this lower part up into the brain. Because apparently, back in the golden age, our sun used to be in our brain, and our moon used to be here in our lower sexual organs. And now the moon has come to our brain and our sun is fallen. So we need to get our sun back into the brain and the moon back where it's supposed to be. We have to let that transference occur within us. So we have to be conscious, attentive, patient, let the pressure build. Don't get to the point where you have to, get to the emergency brake and or try to use some type of violent holding of the muscles, which is very, you can get that. That's for like the later stages, like right now, subtle, careful breathing mantras allow that energy to go up. You want the pressure to build up so much that it naturally rises up the chimney. If you're releasing energy halfway, it might not expel, right? But you're still releasing the energy, whether it's within or without. That is not building the pressure up. So you have to learn to build the pressure up in a way that's calm, subtle, and patient. Tongue here, eyes here. Remember the three breath. You got one in the belly, one in the mid chest, and one in the upper shoulders. Tongue here, eyes here. Bring it down. You can do that every day in the morning before you go to bed. Breathe in, do E in the brain, in the heart, in the lower chakra. So these are three brains. The Atman, or the spiritual being within, attaches itself to a physical organism. This physical organism has three brains. We have the mind, the heart, the emotions. So we have the mind, the intellect, the heart, and the emotions, and then the sexual instinctual center. And the whole point is to get the sexual instinctual center to be dominated by the mind, and to follow our heart, to let the Christ and the inner divine mother resides in the heart temple. And she helps direct the ascent of this energy up the spine. And if we're just being lustful and crude and arrogant and just trying to have the sexual relationship to bring us pleasure and to get to the point where, we're about to do it, and then stop, and then make a mistake, that's bound to happen if you go too far. So this goes for male and females 100% equally. It's important to know to be very patient in the process, and that you're cooking a pot. It's like a alchemical pot. You're adding fire to the pot and boiling the waters. The waters are below. So you have the waters, and you have to boil it and turn into a vapor. And that steam is what we want to rise into the brain. But what happens if you turn the heat up too high on the pot? The water boils over. So you have to be like a cook or an alchemist to carefully, subtly separate the subtle from the gross. And that vapor, you're transmuting the entity of the fluid, not the fluid itself. The fluid becomes a vapor. That vapor nourishes the spinal system and creates the pressure for the seed to rise back to whence it came. So I hope that this is a part one, and it just to try to help with some basic techniques, and we'll be diving deeper into it in the next lesson. Thank you so much. Bye.